Welcome to E20, the best stories in sports. I'm Chris Maves.
I'm Brenna Geiger.
I'm Elsa Copperton.
I'm Emily Klockenberg.
And I'm Chris Liang. Today we're going to be talking about athletes as spectacle.
Particularly through the lenses of race, gender, and drama.
And drama in the consumerism of the audience and the idea that we want to see a perfect game and yet we also want to see the drama that's going on behind it. So we like the juicy stuff too.
Enjoy today's show.
Featuring the biggest names and the best stories in sports. The following is a presentation of E60. Sports Matter. E60 is live on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook right now.
So for our first athlete tonight, we'll be looking at the only player to ever be in a Pro Bowl and your All-Star game in baseball. This is the only athlete to majorly play two sports, as well as beginning in a time where the beginning of his career was entirely orally based. So his legend grew before you got to see anything on film. He was the first big Nike pickup. He was along with Jordan, and this was when Nike and Reebok were still the top two, and his campaign really vaulted them into the first spot. When he was playing in the MLB, one big quote was, if you need to go to the bathroom in the dugout, you could go swing back there, but when Bo was up, you stayed up. Every play he had was some sort of spectacle, some athletic prowess, even though he rarely practiced. He just kind of did it for fun.
You can't touch this.
Stop. Hammer time. Every time you see me, the hammer's just so hype. I'm dope on the floor and I'm magic on the mic. Now why would I ever stop doing this? With others making records that just don't hit. I tour around the world, from London to the Bay. It's hammer, go, hammer, empty hammer, yo, hammer, and the rest can go and play. Can't touch this.
So our second athlete we're going to be talking about today is Seth Jones. He was one of the top prospects in the 2013 NHL draft. He grew up in Denver. He had the potential to play in Denver for the Colorado Avalanche. He has the real potential of becoming one of the first African-American superstars in the game today. He's the son of Popeye Jones, the NBA star, but he's not following in his father's shoes, and he definitely brings up the question of blacks in a white man's game.
Our next athlete we'll be discussing is Serena Williams, who has had a dominating presence in tennis world and in popular culture with her 21 Grand Slam single titles, 13 double titles, and 4 Olympic gold medals.
However, she's also been a very controversial figure due to her temper and her on-court antics, as well as her physical appearance, which has been highly scrutinized. So tonight we wanted to look at how her place as a black woman in sports has impacted her reputation.
Let me tell
Jackson was the perfect athlete. He was a spectacle in the minds of the American people because he was what everybody else wanted to be. He didn't have to put any effort into being great. Coaches said all you had to do was put him in a uniform and get him to the game and he would perform. He was notorious for not putting in work at practice, never needing to weightlift, and still being able to do more things than any other player could.
Bo had hard speed. You felt that he was punishing the ground as he ran.
Bo Jackson wasn't just fast, he was like superhuman strong. It was like he was running a carpool for defenders. Like, hey, Bo, you going to the end zone? Yeah. Okay, we're going to hop on your back and you can just carry us in there.
America wanted to see somebody who was infallible. They wanted to see somebody who they could emulate, see the perfect in their life. There were never any incidences off the field with him in the media. He was always able to do things which other players in his field were astonished at. In fact, he is the one that launched the Nike campaign into what it is now. Before Like Mike, before Air Jordans, there was the Bo Knows campaign. Bo Knows was a campaign based on the fact that he could play every sport. It was his time when people were starting to specialize in sports, and he was one that was able to excel at all without putting any effort in.
Bo knows baseball. Bo knows football. Bo knows basketball, too. Bo knows tennis?
Bo knows running.
No.
Bo knows cycling.
Bo knows weights.
Bo, you don't know diddly.
As you can see by this Nike ad, Bo Jackson was a physically imposing man. He fit the bill of a superhero, yet he didn't have an evil nemesis yet. That wasn't until Brian Bosworth.
Brian Bosworth is one of the greatest marketing jobs ever done by a professional athlete.
Boz was Madonna in shoulder pads. I mean, Madonna had shoulder pads, but Boz's were bigger.
Brian Bosworth was a linebacker for the Seattle Seahawks. He had spent the week prior to the Raiders game billing it as everything that he would do to Bo Jackson. In front of millions on Monday Night Football, Bo Jackson and the boss finally met. As you can see, Brian Bosworth enjoyed playing the role of the bad guy. However, I believe that there's something deeper than race in this issue. I think that this is simply just the desire of society to want to see the good versus evil and to see good prevail. They want to see the perfect in life. They want to see what they can't achieve, what they think that sports should be. Sports should be an outlet for hope. And that's what I think Bo Jackson gave them. Bo Jackson gave them the superhero that enabled them to hope and to see what they truly desired in sports.
All right, so this next guy, Seth Jones.
I'm Seth Jones. I'm 18 years old. I'm about 6'4", 210 pounds, and this is my story.
Oh, big hit of the blue line.
He could be a superstar. He's a very strong, aggressive type of hockey player. He'll make a major impact in the National Hockey League.
Jones cuts laterally into the zone, down the left wing circle, makes a move. He scores!
He was a prospect in the 2013 NHL draft. He was competing with Nathan McKinnon for the #1 overall pick.
Breakaway chance, here comes McKinnon! Shots good!
Coming in hard, score! What a great play by Jones, coming up to join the attack.
Which was going to be selected by Colorado, and Seth Jones grew up in Colorado. He's the son of Popeye Jones, who played for the Nuggets. So he's got ties in Colorado, ties in Denver.
Once we moved to Colorado, Seth became a Colorado Avalanche fan.
I first started playing hockey at a pretty young age, about 5 years old. A lot of my friends were playing, my older brother started playing as well, and I kind of followed his lead when it came to hockey.
So a lot of analysts and a lot of teams thought that, oh, this kid's just, he's a shoo-in. But then the Avalanche, Patrick Waugh and Joe Sakic, they kind of pulled a curveball and they decided to draft Nathan MacKinnon, who was a white player from Canada. They decided to draft him over Jones.
The Colorado Avalanche are proud to select with our first pick from the Halifax Mooseheads, Nathan MacKinnon.
So that was kind of a little controversial, but it was they did come out and explain why they did it. But going more into Jones, he's the son of this NBA player. He's 6'5", so you'd think, oh, he's going to follow in his father's footsteps and play basketball, but decided not to because he wanted to play hockey.
I was playing for the Denver Nuggets at the time, and the Avalanche were there, and they have morning skates at the Pepsi Center. I went over and introduced myself and said, Joe, hi, my name is Popeye Jones. I was like, my kids are interested in playing hockey. I said, as a basketball player, I have no clue what I need to do here. And he kind of looked down at my feet and he kind of looked up at me. He said, from the look of you, they're going to be huge. He said, just make sure they know how to skate.
My dad came home and told us that one of the greatest centers and the captains of all time, Joe Sakic, wanted us to take skating lessons. Me and my two brothers took skating lessons from a figure skater.
He goes to Jones, walks in and fires, scores! Seth Jones with a bullet.
And so that's one stereotype he was breaking, and that's mentioned. Jones and his father, they've had multiple interviews where they've talked about breaking stereotypes and how athletes who play, whose fathers play, they're a lot of athletes nowadays are not following what their dads have done.
This year we're seeing something special in hockey. A 6'4" teenager with a father who spent 11 years in the NBA. He could have had a great basketball career.
Nowadays, score there from the right point. Seth Jones finds a way through 2-0.
Instead, scouts say, 18-year-old Seth Jones could become hockey's first big African-American star.
Everybody's talking about this young man and possibly being the #1 overall.
And then this kind of brings up another issue of blacks and African Americans, African Canadians in hockey, which is a very white Eurocentric game. And only 5% of NHL players are of color, and of that 5%, pretty much all of them are black. Going back further, the first black NHL player was Willie O'Ree. He played in the 1950s, which was kind of revolutionary at the time. The one thing that makes Willie O'Ree's experience kind of different than say Jackie Robinson or other sports is that the NHL there was no law or rule against blacks playing. So even though there was a lot of racism in O'Ree's time, he was still able to play, and there was no rules against him.
It was just a great feeling. I didn't get any goals, no assists. I didn't get in any fights, nothing. But we beat Canadians 3-0. Shut them out right in Montreal.
Being the first black player came at a price. For years, O'Ree had to endure brutality from opposing players and fans.
In the penalty box, stuff to be thrown at you, and they spit at me. I never fought one time because of racial remarks.
And then bringing that up, the racism bit. We talked about there was a discussion about Joel Ward after he scored a goal against the Boston Bruins, and as soon as he scored it, there were all these racist tweets about it. And he, in an interview that Joel Ward had, he said that he was shocked by it, but he kind of knew that what he was getting himself into which was really interesting.
For me personally, I was surprised, or I guess a little shocked, I guess. But deep down inside, I mean, I'm a black player playing a white man's game. I kind of know what I've kind of signed up for all these years growing up playing hockey. I've been through a few incidences when I was younger, nothing major, but I mean, I know it's always going to be there, so I wasn't too surprised.
But then, you look at the NHL and you look at all the black athletes in the NHL, and these guys are superstars. I mean, you've got guys like PK Subban and Wayne Simmons, Vander Kane. These guys are some of the best players to play in the game. And now you have another guy like Seth Jones who, the kid's 20 years old and he's already making names. He's already, he's becoming one of the premier defensemen, which is pretty incredible for, a kid who, grew up in an NBA, pretty much an NBA household. So.
Serena Williams is such an interesting figure because of her enormous skill, but also the enormous controversy that surrounds her in so many aspects of her life.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's a lot of different articles written about her unconventional antics and the way that she groans, but any tennis player would groan when they hit the ball and do that. But and when they questioned whether or not it was a ladies' championship because of these things that she was doing. And I feel like that's not even a relevant question to ask. Why is that? She's like putting on the show, but is that even like a question that?
Yeah, and her antics seem to make her more masculine, which leads to questions about her body type, that she's constantly criticized for being muscular and called animal-like, and how is that a fair comparison when you might not see that in men's game? It's so incredible because that body type is the reason she's so incredible at what she does. And we put her up on this pedestal as a spectacle, as this amazing tennis player, but then tear her down with all these criticisms of her body type, her attitude. And I think it's amazing that she was fined $82,500 for just a few antics at the Open, which makes me question if she was a man, would she be fined as much? Would it be as big of a spectacle? She's a black woman.
Yeah. And yes, tennis is rooted in this you need to act a certain way, and it's just a very formal sport. But if it were a man, if it were Federer, Nadal, Federer, would it be
However,
the same?
you still don't see that very often, even in men's or women's tennis. You don't often see a player cursing at line refs for a call, and being so aggressive is a very absurd thing to see. Yet she is just constantly in the public eye, and she's such a spectacle that it became such a big deal and controversy.
Well, and off that animalistic characteristics, Tracy Austin, who's a two-time U.S. champion in tennis, said honestly, the thought of having to play her is kind of scary, and the idea of being someone that is scary to play against, is that fair at all? And it's continuing within the sport to put her up and tear her down.
Yeah, it's questioning is she scary because of her skill level, or is she scary because she occupies this strange realm of animalistic black woman? And I think a big part of that is the Wozniacki controversy where she dressed up as her, and this so showing of the spectacle that's being created as Serena Williams.
Yeah.
Because would anyone ever do that if a man would a player imitate another player in that way and kind of mock his body structure?
And that goes so far back into the U.S. history and the ways in which we've portrayed people of color and
and she's had to deal with at Indian Wells racial slurs being yelled at her, and she ended up boycotting the tournament for 13 years because she felt so attacked, and that's just because she's in such a public place and is such a spectacle that people felt like they could say whatever they wanted without her feeling affected, yet it dramatically affects her, but we don't see that as much because she's such a spectacle.
Yeah.
Along with other
And even when she
athletes.
tries to like reclaim her sexuality or empowerment, as with the Pirelli calendar when she like posed in a bathing suit, like even then it's seen as this strange, like then it like creates comments such as like, oh look, she can be a bathing suit model, and then she becomes over feminized. Right. She like tries to claim
And
her
where
power.
was ever the question that she couldn't be a bathing suit model?
It's like, and
that's
does
a
she have
surprise.
to be
exactly.
able to be a bathing suit model to be able to be a competitive female athlete?
Can't she
like,
just be a
can't she
dominant
just,
athlete?
Yeah, and when I'm
powerful?
sure Wozniacki has posed for a bathing suit.
Yeah, she was in the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition.
Exactly, and did anyone ever question whether or not she'd be able to be a swimsuit model?
Yeah. Just Serena Williams just is so showing of all the kind of strange things that we put around female athletes and colored athletes.
Yeah.
And everything surrounding
Yeah,
it.
and then there's like the constant doubt and question: is she using steroids? She has this temper. She has this like crazy physique that no other woman seems to have, and I guess like if she isn't, then we can't accept just like her for her. For being her, but if she is, then it's an entirely different conversation.
It's always like, if she was a male athlete, would we question as much? Like maybe we'd accept that for men it's more normal to have a temper, it's more normal to be a little volatile, but since she's a woman, it's seen as this total abnormal behavior that can only be caused by steroids.
Right.
Even if she is or is not using, it's something we have to consider.
Yeah, she's a very interesting figure to look at from multiple perspectives because she embodies a lot that we don't see in other female athletes, or there's a very interesting person to look at.
Yeah, she doesn't try to cover anything up. She's very
She's out there.
Yeah.
So, for our final athlete, he began his career as an infamous rapper, yet his career crashed and burned at the hands of his critics. Lucky for him, an athletic agent came up and saw his hand speed and wanted to sign him. The only issue is he was a piss-poor dunker and had terrible language on the court. The real question is he a role model or not?
Got to get our bootleg shit going again. So this film used to be on one of the films we're going to watch. I'm not going to watch all of it. It used to be on YouTube. Yeah, exactly. So then I had to bootleg the hell out of it from some site. The FBI is probably monitoring the hell out of this site. I don't know what's going on. I'm blaming it on Mr. Brandell, though, if they come looking for me. No, it wasn't me. Mr. Brandell. All right.
So I think we've come to a consensus. The answer is absolutely not. None whatsoever.
Not a moral person.
Definitely
not. No. I mean, he's scared of bugs, snakes, instills fear in his students, right?
Those videos, you've seen those videos.
Highly distracting from his athletic career, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
And he takes advantage of his students' fear. He records them reacting.
Yeah.
Look at that face. Look at that face.
Are you kidding me?
And he tells all these stories about how great he is what the story about scoring on I thought it was scoring on a kid, right? At halftime? Yeah, he scored on a kid. Terrible.
There's been no recording of the video either, so
I can't find it.
Really.
Could he even score on the kid?
I don't even know.
He says it's a mascot, but I bet you it's a kid.
It's a kid.
Highly
questionable.
questionable.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he is one
look
thing.
at
He's
this
a
guy.
professional double fister.
That's huge.
We do have to consider that.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
You see him
Double
with his
fisting
agent.
community, he's a role
Yeah,
model.
this agent, see the scarf there?
Yeah, I mean, look at this.
Countless times.
I mean, these guys, there are children
Look
in the
at this
background.
guy.
I don't know
Look
what
at
they're
this
doing here.
Yeah, just look at this guy.
Can we just point out? There's children in the background.
Children.
Look how
Sitting there.
short they are.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Just at least he's putting his athletic ability to good use, right?
Yeah,
Somewhat.
using that coordination, using that focus.
Yeah.
I think, I'm not a moral figure, but wow, what an athlete.
Well, thank you all for sticking through our show. It's been a good one. Hope you all have a good day.